Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, you have just entered the laundry room. This is Pillar to Post. I am your host, Pete Wall. And today is April 22nd, 2017. And top of the news today, Mauro Ranallo and WWE part ways. We're going to discuss this shit like a steak sizzling on an open fire. We're going to be right back. Join me.
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
This is Pillar to Post. And we are back. Now, as you can see, the window treatments have been changed a little bit. The old ones were kind of getting a little bit dusty. They weren't very good. And simply, I needed to change. So this is your current screen for all Thursday to Sunday shows. Sorry about that. But I had an issue. This past week I was going to update all my window treatments. Because they're all getting a little bit dusty, you know. They're getting old. They've been a couple of months old. They got a little bit of dust on them and some ketchup and mustard for me eating and shit. And I tune in to one of my favorite podcasters. And I cursed out loud and told him to go fuck himself, because the man he's got creating his shit had the same idea as I did. Now, I'm not talking about the screen you're seeing right now. I am talking about the ones for Raw and Smackdown. They are so similar, it looks like I'm trying to copy the motherfucker, and it pisses me off. But I'm not going through all that hard work again. That's a lot of freaking work you got to do to come up with something interesting and good to look at. So I'm going to run with my shit this coming week on Raw, Smackdown, as well as NXT. Everything's got a new window treatment around here because, frankly, you need to update and kind of rejuvenate your channel every now and then. Yes, I am new. Probably didn't need to, but I needed a change for myself. All the other stuff was done on the fly. I quickly threw it together, slapped it on the screen, and there you went. And me, when it comes to this show, I want it to look good. Now, the screen here in front of you, I like. It's dark, it's light, black and white. It's good. I love it. But all the other ones, I wanted to match the show. So you've got red for Raw, you've got blue for SmackDown, and you've got gold for NXT. So I wanted to match that up when it came to doing the window treatments. And I've done that, and they look great, so I'm running with it. I don't give a shit how similar they are. Piss on it. Now, today hasn't been a very good day for me. I wanted to be outside today. I wanted to be working on my son's car. And the fact of the matter is, I've spoken about this before on my channel. My legs don't always work the way I'd like them to. I go through pain 24/7. It's chronic pain, and it never goes away. And last night was, I think, the worst it's been for quite some time. So I was up most of the night, and every time I fell asleep, I was back awake because of the throbbing and the nerve damage in the legs. It feels like sometimes there's fire just creeping up your legs, you know. Terrible to go through. And I woke up at around 6 or 7 this morning. My boy was going to go to work, and I wanted to be awake for him, so that way when he left, you know, he had both parents awake. He is 16 and he can manage on his own, but we like to be awake for the family, you know. And I managed to stay awake, and I managed to stay awake a little bit afterwards, and I think around 9:30 I crashed, and I crashed hard. And I did not wake up till 3 o'clock this afternoon, and it was like maybe an hour before he had to go back to work. He's got to close. He's doing the closing shift from 5 to like 3 in the morning. Terrible hours for him, but hours I'm usually awake, so when he gets home, there's always parents awake. Now, I've never discussed this part. Now, most people have family physicians. This sorry son of a bitch right here, he lost his. Now, the reason behind that was, I went in for a regular checkup, and I have had issues with this doctor in the past, and he was messing around with my meds. He was jacking my meds, my pain meds, way up to the point where I felt like a crackhead. You know, I was already 5 years into using morphine, so I was already naturally addicted to it. And then he goes and ups the dosage and made it even worse. And then the following prescription would be knocked right down to low, to the point where I was going through withdrawals and the pain. I don't know if anyone knows about nerve damage, but morphine is not a good thing to use when you have nerve damage. Now, I've got a lot of other chronic pain because of the accident I was in, all the surgeries I've gone through, all the damage that was done. But the nerve damage overreacts. It's like they're misfiring. The nerves are misfiring constantly, especially when when you've got morphine in your system. They are like out of control. And went in for a regular checkup and to discuss what we could do with the meds, and the son of a bitch had the nerve to ask me how I felt about him as a doctor. And when I refused to answer because I wasn't in the mood to answer that type of question that day, he insisted, and he continued to insist until I finally said, fine. You want to know how I feel? Every time I walk into your office, I want to take my cane and I want to shove it down your fucking throat. And then he turned around and said that all my issues were because of my weight. If I wasn't fat, and that was his word, if you weren't so fat, you wouldn't have all the issues you do. And I lost it. And it came down to me telling him that I was going to put my fist in his mouth and he was going to swallow his teeth. I had him pressed up against the wall. The wife comes into the the checkup room, and she goes, "What did I miss?" And I just looked at her and said, "You know what? You deal with this retard, because I'm done. I'm going to a liquor store. I'm getting loaded." Now, I do have a weight problem. I'm about 350 pounds right now. I'm not happy with it. And I plan on doing something about it. But I was 250 pounds solid muscle when I got hit by the truck. I was walking. I was thrown about 70, 75 feet, they estimated. The driver was going about 120 kilometers. And to tell me that all my issues are from my weight, after I've gone through about 9 surgeries because of a drunk driver that didn't know better than to call a cab, I'm going to lose it. So now I deal with all these issues on my own. I don't have a doctor to see. I've actually had to go and put myself into the hospital to make sure I didn't do something stupid to myself because of the pain. And after I finally quit the morphine, everything's been pretty good. I still have issues. I have a lot of issues, but I can manage for the most part. Last night, however, was a bad one. So I was up and I told the wife, and I finally woke up, I said, I got to do something because I could fall back asleep. I could sleep the whole day away today, and I don't want to do that. And so I told her, you know what, I'm going to go in the laundry room. I'm going to see what I can do around there. So I started fiddling around first with the window treatments for my show. And I came up with this design because this was the only show I hadn't done anything for the Thursday to Sunday shows. I had nothing for that show. I still had the old one, and I wasn't happy with it. So I started designing this one, threw it all together. And then I went online and I started looking around for news. And I was like, wow, there's actually news out there. So I'm going to bring you some news and some rumors, because there are a lot of rumors about. Sorry about that. I've got a fly flying around my fucking laundry room here. But don't want to, I started to show off on a downer, and I don't like doing that. So let's pick it up a little bit. Let's get into the news. Let's discuss some shit. And you know what? Before we go on, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to ask you, the listener, the viewer, if you are dealing with chronic pain and nerve damage, what are things that you use for relief? If you have an idea that works that is non-medicinal, I don't want medicinal. I don't want to be back on painkillers. There are a lot of people that'll tell me smoke some weed. I used to smoke weed as a teenager, even as a young adult, all the time. Nowadays, I can't even stand the smell of it. I smell it, I start gagging, it gets in my mouth, I start gagging. It's got to be non-medicinal, non-narcotic. You know, it's got to be something that will help me and I don't have issues with it. So I don't want like morphine and shit like that. Don't suggest stuff like that. Don't suggest drugs of any kind. I don't want to hear about that. Home remedy. Home remedy. You have an idea, throw it my way. I'll use it. I'll test it out, see if it works, and I will talk about it on a show here on my channel. So, before we move on, hit that subscribe and like button, and continue to follow the show. Pillar to Post is growing slowly, and I want to thank all the subscribers that have signed on, and I hope you enjoy the wrestling content I bring you. But like I stated, we're going to move on with the show, and the first report is about Mauro Ranallo and WWE finally and officially parting ways. And on the title, it was added on in brackets. It has nothing to do with JBL. Now, this was brought by Sean Reuter. I believe it was eWrestling.com. Could have been Wrestling Inc. as well. I got to start making sure I put that down as well. I'm starting to remember the sources, but I'm not remembering where I got the article's from. Sorry about that. But I believe Sean Roeder is good enough as a source. Now, sorry about that. Now it says it has nothing to do with JBL, but we all know from prior articles and rumors and news outlets about this whole situation with Mauro Ranallo and WWE that they are trying to stem this flow of news into the media because it will affect their partnership with the anti-bullying campaigns they run and the boys and girls clubs that they are involved in and so many other anti-bullying type campaigns that they do get involved with. So of course they're going to say it has nothing to do with JBL. And they also in prior articles stated that Mauro Ranallo would be signing if he wanted to get taken away fully off of WWE out of his contract and everything, that he would need to sign a contract stating that he would not discuss any of the issues going on between him and JBL and the company. So let's move into the article. And it reads, while it's a story which will likely remain a part of the discussion about wrestling culture, WWE, Mauro Ranallo, and JBL are looking to officially close the book on a situation which dominated that conversation for much of the past 5 weeks. Fucking right, man. This has been top of the list of all the news articles out there in the wrestling world. Mauro Ranallo and JBL and WWE has all been at the top, and everyone is talking about it. And like I said on one of my other shows, I don't want to talk about it anymore, but there's a train, people. Jesus, like clockwork. Every time I want to do a show, train runs through. But like I said, they're going to make sure that this doesn't go any further. They're going to deny any kind of accusations that it was JBL's fault that Mauro Ranallo walked away. But everyone knows that. So let's continue. Ranallo had been absent from his usual post at the Smackdown announce desk for 2 weeks when confirmation came via his friend Bass Rutten. He was out dealing with his previously disclosed bipolar disorder. This, about the same time the Wrestling Observer and others reported his condition was caused or exacerbated by treatment from his Tuesday night announce partner, John Layfield, aka JBL. Now, while this was going on, Justin Roberts' autobiography, Best Seat in the House, came out detailing some decade-old stories about JBL as a backstage enforcer and, for lack of a better term, bully. Dave Meltzer at The Observer said his sources indicated Layfield was just a symptom of larger cultural problems at WWE. And with mainstream media outlets picking up the story and fans chanting "Fire JBL" at some events, the company realized it could have a problem on its hands. Well, no fucking shit. Especially considering their public relations campaigns like Be a Star, Show Tolerance and Respect, and partnerships with organizations like Boys and Girls Club promoting anti-bullying efforts. Now, the latest word from Meltzer and similar outlets was WWE was seeking to come to terms with Ranallo on an exit package which would ensure his silence or at least support the company presented version of events. It's not clear if such a deal was made or even ever offered, but an exclusive story on Newsweek's website today, April 22nd, certainly reads like WWE's best attempt to publicly settle the matter. Mauro's statement in the article is brief and to the point. WWE and I mutually agreed to part ways. It has nothing to do with JBL. Layfield also quoted in the post in a way that says sorry without admitting fault and framing the stories from Robert's book as a relic of the old WWE. Now, admittedly, I took part in locker room pranks that existed within the industry years ago. WWE addressed my behavior and I responded accordingly. These are the words from John Bradshaw Layfield. Yet my past is being brought up because of recent unfound rumors. I apologize if anything I said playing the bad guy on a TV show was misconstrued. Now, Newsweek's story also has the first statement from the company on the matter. Beyond a brief mention of Ranallo's contract's end date a few weeks back, it reaffirms their commitment to their philanthropic... you know what? I came prepared. I got a bigger cup. Now, try that again. It reaffirms their commitment to their philanthropic... Jesus, my mouth just doesn't want to work today. Marketing efforts, and says they conducted an internal investigation of the situation despite the lack of an official complaint from Mauro or any other employee, which turned up nothing. And it reads, as part of our commitment to creating an inclusive environment, in April 2011, WWE launched our anti-bullying campaign, Be a Star, which encourages young people to treat each other with tolerance and respect. As a publicly traded company, that mantra carries forward in our corporate culture. As such, we fully investigate any allegations of inappropriate behavior, including the recent alleged situation with John Layfield, aka JBL, despite no formal complaint having been submitted. Will this article, carefully released to a mainstream media outlet on Saturday morning, a time which seems designed to have it exit the quickly cycling conversation as soon as possible? Not going to happen. Settle the issues for fans, sponsors, and partners? Nah. Fans are still going to be screaming, fire JBL. We all know he's a prick. We shall see. In the time, Smackdown continues with Tom Phillips as lead announcer, which Ranallo moves on to mixed martial arts, boxing on Showtime, and other jobs, including an already teased return to calling pro wrestling. Now, I've got the next article coming up, and it has something with Tom Phillips as well. So it's going to kind of continue the story. I should have separated a little bit more, but I also wanted to follow this because it made sense to. Now, I'm happy that Ranallo's got, he's cut the ties. He doesn't need that kind of emotional stress in his life, especially when you're dealing with mental illness. Guys like John Bradshaw Layfield can be pricks. I deal with depression because of the injuries I am in. I can control it better now, but it is hard some days, especially when people say the wrong things to you, or you're feeling a certain way, and someone just happens to say something that kind of just kicks the crap out of your innards, I like it that he's getting back into commentating with mixed martial arts and boxing, and I do hope to see him calling some more pro wrestling. Ranallo, like everyone's been stating on these podcasts, Ranallo was the best commentator they had going in this current generation. And they fucked that up by having JBL at the commentator's booth. Didn't make any sense to begin with. And the next topic goes into a little bit further. So, the real reason why Tom Phillips was added to SmackDown announce team. Mauro Ranallo's time in WWE may have been limited even without the John Layfield issues. Vince McMahon was said to be getting frustrated at Ranallo's announcing style, and that's when he brought in Tom Phillips to be the fourth man at the announce table. I think most people saw the writing on the wall, and the feeling was that Ranallo's days were numbered. Now, Ranallo's hip-hop references, or references to wrestlers like Okada, were not going to help his cause. I think that if someone would have pulled him aside and told him to tone down on the references, then he would have had done so. Keep in mind, when Ranallo was first brought in, he was told to call the action as if he was calling a sport and to be himself, because McMahon wanted SmackDown to feel different than Raw. And Ranallo did a great job of making SmackDown feel better than Raw. And not just because we actually got better wrestling on SmackDown, but the commentating was way above what they were doing on Raw. Totally better. Now, McMahon got tired of Ranallo's style after a few months, and that's when the problems picked up. So you can guarantee that Ranallo wasn't just getting bullied by JBL, he was probably getting it in the ass from McMahon as well. There have been several people in WWE, including wrestlers, that have reached out to Ranallo to offer support. There were some wrestlers that preferred having Ranallo calling their matches because, like Jim Ross, he would do a better job than most at getting the match and the performers over. Damn fucking Skippy. Him and Jim Ross, I would have loved to see that pairing. At the commentators booth, would have loved to see that pairing. Would have been over the top. Michael Cole had put together a list of rules for announcers. One of the rules was that the heel announcer could not publicly emasculate the lead announcer. Those rules never applied to JBL. There you go. In a recent interview with Under the Mat Radio, former WWE announcer Rich Brennan said the following on JBL. JBL was difficult to work with as a broadcast partner. It's nothing you can do about it because that's Vince's, in brackets, McMahon's guy. With this whole thing going on, Mauro's situation, I don't know, but it seems like he's entrenched there. He's basically violates all rules when it comes to broadcast announcers in how we are trained to be announcers because he can. Difficult to work with, part of that is his heel persona. Some of that is if he, JBL, doesn't like you or respect you, then it's dialed up a little bit more. At times, I felt like he really didn't work to make the product better. He was just there to get himself over. Backstage, he was okay to me. Can I see him giving Mauro a hard time? Absolutely, I can. Now, as of this writing, WWE has not commented on any of the JBL stories. If you haven't read the JBL Lillian Garcia story, you can find it. I believe it was WrestlingInc.com. Basically, he made her cry. Oh my God, he made her cry. Fucking shit. This is just more information that basically backs the whole Mauro Ranallo story, why he walked away. Now, there was other articles from former commentators and wrestlers that said the JBL you see at the commentators booth is the same guy you see at the buffet booth or the food truck or the office or outside. He's the same everywhere. So what does that tell you? He's not playing a heel. He's being himself. He's being a complete fucking jackass. He wants to be over with the fans. Meanwhile, all the fans don't want him there. He can call that being a heel that the fans hate him. But there is a heel heat that someone gets. And there is actual hate that the audience actually has for him. JBL needs to actually step away from the commentators booth and do something, like I said in a prior episode, do something in the back, in the locker room or offices or whatever. He wants to hang off of Vince McMahon's ball sack like a dangling jock monkey. Then that can be done away from the TV monitors. He needs to be gone, and gone good, in my opinion. Moving on. One of the our last shows I spoke of Ember Moon possibly being injured. And I would keep you guys updated on that. And this article deals with that directly. So as noted, a battle royal to crown a new #1 contender to NXT Women's Championship took place at this past Wednesday's NXT TV tapings in Winter Park, Florida, at Full Sail University. During the match, Ember Moon was knocked from the top rope to the floor. There were several people in attendance noted that she essentially did a suicide dive and nailed the guardrail with her shoulder. The match ended shortly after the spot, and Moon was seen crying at ringside. She was helped to the back by referees and medics. Now, Casey of Squared Circle Sirens is reporting that Moon is okay and did not suffer any injury at the tapings. So there you go, guys. Not only do we still have Asuka on active NXT television, we will still have Ember Moon. These are the two best women in NXT currently. And we can guarantee that Ember Moon will probably be the one to end Asuka's reign as the longest ever running women's champion in NXT and WWE history. She is basically set to break Bill Goldberg's streak. She's going to beat the streak, and by what I read today somewhere was by SummerSlam, she will drop the title and be promoted to the main roster, which everyone is waiting to see because she is going to school these women on the main roster on what wrestling truly is. She is by far the best woman in that ring currently under WWE contract. You can argue it, I don't care. Yes, we got Mickie James and we've got Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss plays a great heel. Her wrestling is not on par with Asuka. Mickie James, you can say the same thing. Her wrestling is not on par with Asuka's. You got Charlotte. I am Charlotte. I want to wrestle you for the title. Come on, her promos suck. She's a great athlete, but still does not compete with what Asuka brings to the ring. Now, as you guys all have heard, Dash Wilder suffered an injury to his jaw. His jaw was essentially broken. He had to undergo surgery, and they had to wire it together. Dash Wilder had jaw surgery, immediately got back into the gym the same day as the surgery. Now, word came down just days ago that Dash Wilder on one half of the Revival was injured and would be out of action for a number of months. The issue was a broken jaw suffered at an NXT house show. Surgery was scheduled for just last night, and it was a success. In fact, Dash is already back in the gym. Surgery on Friday, shrugs on a Friday. Hashtag top guys, hashtag body guys, hashtag Monday Night Revival. Actually, that fucking works great for Monday Night Raw. Have Monday Night Revival. Love it. This guy is a tough son of a bitch. If you haven't seen him in the ring, you need to check out the Revival. They are old school. They are a throwback to the old school style of tag team wrestling. Perfect for this generation because this generation needs a taste of tradition. Because frankly, they cannot compete with what the guys used to do back in the day. They don't have the same kind of drive. They've been shackled down. They are made to read script after script, and they all sound like it. It is tiresome. I want to see them being cut loose, cut a promo like they used to back in the day. You go back to the Dusty Rhodes, and I like doing this because Dusty Rhodes is one of my all-time favorites. You go back to the Dusty Rhodes promo, Hard Times, that was shot with him just going. There was no script for him to read. He was out there, he was himself, and he let it all out, and you don't see any of that anymore these days. You go back to the Undertaker days, like when he first came in with Paul Bearer, and you got the Ultimate Warrior. The Ultimate Warrior is a perfect example. Yes, his promos didn't make a hell of a lot of sense, but it was him. It was his character. He was out there. He was outrageous, just like his character was. Hulk Hogan as well. I'm not a Hulk Hogan fan. The guy could not pull a wrestling move out of a paper bag. But he was able to capture the fans with his promos. You don't see that anymore these days. There is no one that truly can cut a good promo these days. Hardly anyone. Moving on. WWE looking to make minor changes to Baron Corbin's character. I think he needs a little bit of a change. I think his promo work needs a lot of work. He needs to work on his in-ring skills a bit as well. That's my point of view. I love the guy. He is a great person to watch in the ring, but he does need work. So the article was actually issued April 21st by Andrew Thompson. So the lone wolf, Baron Corbin, has been in talks as of late for potentially receiving a push to be a main player on SmackDown Live. It is expected that once Randy Orton successfully defends the WWE Championship against Jinder Mahal, that Corbin will be positioned in line next. But before that, reportedly, WWE wants to make some minor changes to the Corbin's character. According to Dave Meltzer of Wrestling Observer Newsletter, WWE wants to make changes, but not so drastic that it will change the lone wolf gimmick, but Corbin will be receiving a more menacing theme song. Meltzer also reported that a change of ring gear may also come Corbin's way, which led most to speculate the wolf vest he wears may be removed from his attire. Like I said, he does need some kind of change. Not necessarily his look, but his mic skills need some help. He definitely needs to upgrade some of his moves and add more to the repertoire. That's just my opinion. Like I said, I do love the guy. He's got that great heel mentality, but he doesn't own it completely as well. You look at Braun Strowman, and that guy plays the best heel you can think of for a man his size. And being billed the monster among men, you have to take it and run with it. You have to own that menacing character. And Baron Corbin has yet to do so. We have yet to see that whole sinister heel mentality about him. It's like he's struggling to accept being a heel at times. That is my opinion. And, that is my job when I'm reading these articles. Sometimes you just have to agree with what's written. And you really can't give your own opinion. But this article, I can. You can give a good opinion because Baron Corbin does need a lot of work. And reports are that his build to succession and owning that WWE World's title on SmackDown is going to be a slow build, which will help him greatly. Getting a new theme song, getting a new intro, that's all part of it. But he's got to build himself up now to be that ultimate heel that nobody wants to cross. And right now, he's just not there. Looking at him, I don't get afraid. I want to be afraid of a heel. I look at Braun Strowman, and not just because of his size. I look at the guy and I say, fuck, I would never want to fuck with a guy like him. Now, I've heard him also speak on Stone Cold's podcast, and it's like, wow, this guy is well spoken. And you have a completely different look on him. And yes, the podcast, you don't see the man. But when he's speaking in his normal way and mannerisms that he would on an everyday basis, it's like, that is not the monster I see on TV. Yeah, I'd fuck with that sumbitch. Corbin, however, you know what? I'd walk up to him, and this is when I was younger, not now. I probably would have walked up to a guy and I would have punched him in the mouth. Because I was that type of person. Back then, I had the problem, if someone smiled at me, it was like, why are you smiling? Why do you have a right to be happy? And if they were a big person, I was right there in the mess. I wanted to kick their ass. They smiled at me. They had no right to smile. And Baron Corbin, he's just one of those big guys that I would have walked up to in high school, my early 20s, and punched him in the mouth. I would have probably done the same thing with Baron Corbin, but I would have got my ass handed to me. Moving on. CM Punk says being in WWE was never his end goal. He also comments on fighting being tough. And this was written by Brian Clark. Excuse me just a minute. I had a pop-up on my window and I just want to get rid of that. And this was written today. So, CM Punk. God, what the fuck with the flies? Oh, we got wine brewing here. That's why. Yes, the wine is sealed. They cannot get in. Don't worry about it. I can't wait to taste it. So, CM Punk spoke with ABC 7 Chicago for a new interview about his wrestling and MMA career. These are just some of the highlights of that interview. Now, on where his desire to be a WWE superstar began. And his answer was, I'm not sure. Obviously, I watched WWF as a kid. But when I made the conscious decision, WWF was never the end goal. I romanticized about Japanese wrestling. There was 2 companies in Japan. It was called All Japan and New Japan. And that was my thing. I was more about going over there and being a star over there, then coming home and just being completely... You can walk down the street and nobody knows you. That was my style. I liked it. But I worked so long and hard at it that it became so boring. It became the last frontier was WWE. I had to go and see if I could conquer that, so I gave it a shot. And conquered he did. He became, to this day, one of the most popular guys in WWE history. To this day, the fans at live events continue to chant CM Punk. And there's a reason for that. He did the best work on WWE television. He made things exciting. His pipe bomb, when he first came out and did his original pipe bomb, fucking beautiful. He spoke honestly, and the fans knew he was. So they gravitated towards him. His entire career in WWE was just one step to the top. And he went out on the top. To this day, everyone wants him back. It's not going to change anytime soon. Now, on fighting being tough. He goes, it's all tough. I was a wrestler throwing myself to the ground 300 days a year. Now I'm more focused on different disciplines, and I get to sleep in my own bed every night. Isn't that great, though? To me, there's something so romantic about that. And as in being home, being able to sleep in his own bed. He goes on to say, you walk into a cage and there's a winner and a loser. People can make excuses, but at the end of the day, there's a winner and there's a loser. I think in this world, because in my opinion, you only get one time around. If you're scared of something, I think it's best to face it head on. I'm comfortable with being uncomfortable. And he's proven that. He stepped into UFC. He got his ass handed to him. And he's still training. I don't know if he's going to fight in UFC again or in MMA at all. I haven't heard anything, and I don't really follow MMA or UFC. So, lost to me, I guess. But if he has, throw a comment below and let me know. School me a little bit. Yes, it is a Christmas cup, but it is the biggest mug in the house. This sumbitch holds 2 large coffees. Love it. And we're going to move into some WWE rumors. And there's a few of them. So, WWE canceled plans for Shinsuke Nakamura's main roster debut at WrestleMania 33. And this was written by Andrew Thompson, April 22nd. So, today. He goes, as we saw on Smackdown Live after WrestleMania 33, the king of strong style, Shinsuke Nakamura, made his long-awaited main roster debut. Nakamura's first televised in-ring match is set to be versus Dolph Ziggler at WWE Backlash May 21st. But there were talks of Nakamura possibly making his main roster debut at WrestleMania. Now, according to Sportskeeda, Nakamura was reportedly going to be facing The Miz at WrestleMania 33. The reported plan was that The Miz and SD Live GM Daniel Bryan's issue with one another was supposed to escalate all the way to WrestleMania 33. Ultimately, The Miz would be defending his IC title against an opponent of Bryan's choosing, in which Braun would decide at WrestleMania. Sportskeeda is reporting that Shinsuke Nakamura would have been Intercontinental Champion his first night on the main roster. However, John Cena agreed to the match with The Miz and Maurice on the grandest stage of them all, and it wasn't so grand, which scrapped the plans for Nakamura, and he was kept in NXT until post-WrestleMania. There's more about the whole John Cena-Miz match coming up, more rumors concerning that, and what happened after the match, I should say. So, my thoughts, it is very possible that this rumor is true. I don't think the fans would have gravitated towards Shinsuke Nakamura. Yes, they would have loved him they would have loved seeing him kicking the Miz's ass, but him becoming Intercontinental Champion right away, I don't think the fans would have liked that. They want guys from NXT to come in, and even outsiders, people that they're bringing in from the independents. They want them to come in and earn their place on the roster. They want them to work their way up the ladder. And that is the only way that a wrestler can truly get over with the fans. They have to earn their place within the business. And just being thrust into the limelight and into gold and then forced down our throats. We don't appreciate it. We don't like it. And we don't gravitate towards it. So, do I see this being a true rumor? Quite possibly. I believe it could have been. I really do. I'm glad they didn't do it. I'm glad they held off, because Nakamura should be brought in increments. He cannot be on the main roster and be full-time all the time, because his entrance alone is one of the longest. I think it's longer than The Undertaker's entrance. And frankly, I don't think people would gravitate towards it as much if they seen it every week on Smackdown. So, his first feud is going to be with Dolph Ziggler. He's going to conquer Dolph. Everyone does. Dolph is there to basically put over everyone. So, he's going to conquer Ziggler, and he's going to move up, and he's going to capture the now U.S. title. I would love to see him going against Kevin Owens. Would be a fantastic match. And then he's going to go on from there and possibly, by 2018, be your WWE World Champion. Moving on to more rumors. John Cena's proposal changed the course of WrestleMania plans. And this has got also tied into the Nakamura storyline. So John Cena's proposal to longtime girlfriend Nikki Bella made for a great moment, and best of luck to those two on their future marriage. But did John Cena's proposal change the course of plans for WWE a few months prior to WrestleMania? Before I get into this, now I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this next name right. Bill Beatty or Bill Batty, either one, of the Dirt Sheets podcast, shared a report with Sportskeeda and shared how one idea from WWE executive producer Kevin Dunn, Mr. Beaverteeth, Mr. Sabretooth himself, changed the plans going forward into WrestleMania. According to Bill Batty, I'll call him Batty, the reason John Cena defeated AJ Styles at the Royal Rumble was because he agreed to propose to Nikki Bella at WrestleMania, in which the idea was proposed by Kevin. My teeth are too big for my fucking face. Done. Now, there was a lot of comments made after WrestleMania that the proposal, there was no surprise on Nikki Bella's face. Well, no shit. This tells it all right there. It was scripted. Yes, he did actually propose to her, but she knew what was going to go down that night. Now, Batty went on to add that the original plan for the 2017 Royal Rumble was to have AJ Styles drop the WWE Championship to The Undertaker, which I think everyone would have liked to see. Shortly after, Styles would head into the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view and recapture the championship. Current WWE Champion Randy Orton was always penciled in as the winner of the 2017 Royal Rumble, but the predicted match between him and Styles would have taken place at WrestleMania 33, opposed to the upcoming summer of 2017. Now, it was also reported here on EWN, according to Sportskeeda, that Cena's proposal delayed the debut of Shinsuke Nakamura, which I just went over. Nakamura was reportedly supposed to capture the IC Championship at WrestleMania from The Miz, stemming from The Miz versus SD Live General Manager Daniel Bryan's issue with one another. Bryan was supposed to announce a challenger for The Miz on his behalf, which was set to be Shinsuke Nakamura. But Cena agreeing to the match with Miz and Maurice delayed Nakamura's main roster debut and possibly the Intercontinental Championship. And like I just said, I'm kind of glad that did happen. Did happen, because giving Nakamura that big push and thrust into the spotlight too soon, would have fucked him up in the fans' eyes. Would have been like a Roman Reigns situation where we don't hate the wrestler, we're hating the push behind the wrestler. He is constantly being shoved down everyone's throat. He's not that great of a wrestler. He needed more time to cultivate his attitude, his gimmick, and his wrestling skills. And he wasn't given that time. He was thrust into the spotlight, thrust down our throats, and we were told to basically love him as the new face of WWE. And I'm sorry, but if you're like me, not going to happen. You have to be traditional and conquer the roster towards the upper echelon. So let's see, is there any other news? Yes, we have more WWE rumors. Now, usually you won't see me doing something on a Sunday, and I believe it is Sunday. My days are all fucked up. No, it is Saturday, so I am on schedule. But this week, this is the 4th episode of Pillar to Post. So, not 4th episode, but part 4 of episode 2. So, let's move on with more rumors. Randy Orton may be holding on to the WWE title longer than expected. Also written by Andrew Thompson. So, most expected current WWE Champion Randy Orton to capture the title at WrestleMania, although it was not wanted. No shit, it wasn't wanted. Bray Wyatt should still be champion. He is better at giving promos. He is an interesting wrestler to watch. And Randy Orton is just fucking boring. So before the Superstar Shakeup, Bray Wyatt issued his rematch for the WWE Championship in a House of Horrors match. Not House of Horrors. House of Horror. House of Horrors. Sorry about that, folks. Match which has still yet to be defined and can only be compared to the Asylum match that happened at the 2016 Extreme Rules pay-per-view between Ambrose and Jericho. And I hope to God they don't run with that, because the Asylum match sucked. Basically, it's a cage with weapons attached to the side of the cage. I don't want to see it. It's been done to death. You know, it needs something new. They need to do something different. This needs to be a House of Horrors. Now, Wyatt has since then become a member of Monday Night Raw, which has led to numerous wrestling news sources agreeing that Bray Wyatt will definitely be losing his rematch at WWE Payback on April 30th. Now, Lesnar is the WWE Universal Champion who is on Raw, and although he will have spotty appearances, WWE will not have the two main championships on one show. While rumors are now that there will be no heavyweight or universal title on that pay-per-view. So they need to thrust the Intercontinental title in the spotlight and bring glory back to the Intercontinental title, because it is lacking that in a serious way. Okay, so moving on. There is a good reason, according to Cage Side Seats, as to why Orton will be holding the WWE title for longer than expected. The long-term plan ahead is for AJ Styles to challenge Orton for the WWE Championship. Most have predicted that, but Orton has ways to go before him and Styles clash. No pun intended on that last one. As seen on last week's episode of Smackdown Live, Jinder Mahal won a six-pack challenge to become the new #1 contender for the WWE Championship at Backlash on May 21st. Not many are expecting Mahal to win, as it was reported by Sportskeeda that Mahal's push was simply to promote WWE shop sales in India. Yeah, the new self-proclaimed American Dream, motherfucker. This guy needs to stop putting the needle in the vein and needs to actually get a fucking gimmick and an attitude other than roid rage to get over with the fans. After Mahal, there has been many of reports, including the Wrestling Observer newsletter, reporting that Corbin will be next in line for a WWE title shot. Corbin has also been reported to be undergoing some minor changes to his character, entrance music, ring attire, to make him look the part, if he possibly was positioned to be WWE Champion. I see him by the end of this year. He is your new WWE Heavyweight Champion, no doubts about it. If Baron Corbin versus Randy Orton is happening, the next SD Live exclusive pay-per-view is Money in the Bank on June 18th, where, in my opinion, Baron Corbin should win the TLC match, grab the briefcase, and make his way to the top of the food chain in Smackdown. Now, there is no official stating of this match at Money in the Bank, but a WWE Championship match more than likely will take place on the brand's exclusive pay-per-view. Sources are expecting Orton to pull out of this feud as well, and if the ultimate goal is to have AJ Styles versus Randy Orton for the WWE Championship, says Cage Side Seats, that match may not happen until the following SmackDown Live exclusive pay-per-view, Battleground, July 26th. Now, I've heard talk about it before on other podcasts about Money in the Bank, how it should be a dual-branded pay-per-view, and I do agree. But everyone, when they talk about having 3 or 4 men from Raw, 3 or 4 men from SmackDown, and then put in there, and then the winner of the briefcase, the one who pulls the briefcase down from the ring, that show gets, a new #1 contender, or whatever it is called. He gets cash in whenever he pleases. But to me, that doesn't make sense. I'd make it have a dual-branded pay-per-view, but 6 wrestlers from each company and their own TLC match. And the winners each get a briefcase for their respective shows. I don't think it makes sense to have them put together as a brand versus brand situation. I don't see that. It just doesn't make sense to me. Just like this last SmackDown didn't make sense to me. But there we go. Now, moving on. Now, everyone remembers the article Ric Flair being kicked out of a Indiana bar for his disrespectful manner towards the bartender. I think the comment was he called the bartender a fat ass, and he was kicked out and asked not to come back to that bar. So, we get Ric Flair explaining his side of the story involving him being kicked out of an Indiana bar. And it is in true Ric Flair fashion. So, as noted, WWE Hall of Famer Ric Flair was recently kicked out of a Fort Wayne, Indiana bar for allegedly harassing the bartender. Now, Flair appeared on yesterday's edition of ESPN's Dan Le Batard show and had the following to say on the incident. Before I start, though, Ric Flair states, "I walked in, said to the guy, 'Will you please put on the golf tournament? It's only the Masters, right?' He said. 'What do you think that is, a sports bar?' And he goes, 'I didn't say it was a sports bar. I asked you to put on the Masters.' Now, according to Flair, the bartender refused to put the Masters on, and shortly thereafter, Flair was kicked out of the bar. Flair did add, 'I had only had one drink. I asked for another drink. After the bartender used the same glass to get Flair a refill, Flair said, 'Sir, Doesn't a premium drink require a new glass? And the bartender said, are you telling me how to bartend? Flair replied, not if I don't have to, dumbass. Did you call me a dumbass? The bartender questions. And Flair continues to say, I can call you a dumbass or a fat ass. Both work. And he was summarily kicked out of the bar. So, you know, it's Flair written all over it. And I believe every word that he said exactly what he said. He wanted to watch the golf tournament. And if you go in the wrong bar and ask for the golf tournament to be put on, and it's a big bartender that has no use for that kind of sports recreation, he's going to tell you, you know, fuck off. This is not that kind of bar. If it would have been a football game, probably would have been turned on. And Flair does have a way of bringing it to that next level and bringing it so that way there is trouble involved. And there was trouble involved, and he was removed from the bar. But even at his age, you know, he's still going to do the things he does, and it's not going to change anytime soon. I got a little kick out of this next article, and this involves Monday Night Raw this coming week. WWE star challenges Braun Strowman to a dumpster match on Raw, and Kurt Angle makes the match official. Now, if you watched Raw this past week, you know which superstar I'm going to be speaking of. The little midget Kalisto challenges the monster among men, Braun Strowman, to a dumpster match. You know, I'll give little people credit. You do have to watch them, because with overestimating or underestimating them, they can easily go and screw you and kick your ass. It's happened before. So, you know, but this match makes no sense. Kalisto getting all big and puffing up his chest, and now he wants to battle Braun Strowman in a dumpster match. Give me a break. This is only going to be seconds. So WWE star Kalisto, who was the victim of Braun Strowman's backstage tirade last week, has challenged Strowman to a dumpster match on WWE Raw Monday night. And this all happened on Twitter. So Kalisto, monsters have weaknesses, Braun. You are no monster. I challenge you to a dumpster match. Then I'll reveal the kind of monster trash you are. And Kurt Angle replied, it's about the size of the fight in the dog. You want it, Kalisto WWE? You got it. Braun versus Kalisto in a hashtag dumpster match on Monday Night Raw. That is the final article I read. What the hell do you think of this match? Do you really see this going anywhere? Honestly. You've got little old tiny Kalisto going to take on the 7-foot monster among men and believe that he's going to win? Nah. This is a pointless match. It's going to be funny. I'm going to laugh. I know I will. My daughter's going to laugh. And I've spoken of it before. Me and my daughter always watch wrestling together. It is... watching her kind of makes it better when she's watching wrestling. If there's like a move that really looks devastating and the impact looks so legit, she will sit there and giggle, and it just makes my viewing experience that much more better. But you can expect little Kalisto to be dominated like a little bitch this Monday night. This is Pillar to Post. I thank you for joining. Now, I usually at the top of the show I'll go run down through everywhere where you can find me. You can go to my Patreon. You can find me on vidme.com, Facebook, Twitter. All that is in the description box below. And if you stuck it through and you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and like and continue to follow. And remember, this Sunday, tomorrow at 8 p.m., we'll be shooting from the hip with myself, Pete Wall, and Pillar to Post, and my co-host, Red from Heavyweight Mark. And we will be discussing this week in Raw and SmackDown and NXT, everything WWE related, as well as other things. And we're going to make sure it is a lively show. It's approximately going to run about 2 hours. We're going to have some fun. And I hope to see you there because it will be live stream. You guys have a good evening. Thank you for joining me. We are out. See ya.
10,